Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. All right, we're going to go discussion and possible consensus on the Operation Committee meeting minutes from November 13th, 2017. I'll start with Amanda. Yes.
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 Yes. And yes. Okay. Item B, Board of Education Financial Report. We'll turn that over.
Thank you. I handed out the two different documents, the projections and the munis report is what you should have had in your packet. And I'm just going to go through really the projections and then open it up for questions on that. Going through in order, the contingency, there's no change. We haven't transferred any money and we hope not to transfer money, so we're still planning to have that surplus at the end of the year. Benefits, we had a little bit of movement. We had a minor increase in the surplus. And we also factored in that we're adding a new program this year, and we had to factor in a new teacher and a half of psychologists, and those are going to be prorated. We expect that program to kick in January. Tuitions, I broke it out differently this month. I wanted to show you really what we're working with. We work with our tuitions, and then we have our excess cost estimate. So that's how we arrive at the number. It wasn't, I just want to put a little more transparency into it. So I show you, we have a negative 2.7 million on the tuitions, and we're expecting a 1.659 excess cost reimbursement. And the reason I did that was either one of those numbers can fluctuate, and this way we'll have a better feel for if and why numbers change.
So does that 1 million include the extra money we put aside towards tuitions?
No, that 1.659 is a budgeted item, and it's based on our expenditures. There's a formula the state has, depending on how much we spend per student, and there's a reimbursement on the amount over that.
I didn't mean the excess cost. I meant your negative at the bottom. Your
The one-
negative
the net number,
62.
That does not contemplate using that money we set aside.
Okay, thank
Sorry,
you.
I misunderstood the question.
No, sorry, that was me.
No, all right. And again, the primary driver there is the private tuition is the big deficit in that bucket. As far as transportation, we have a surplus of about 112,000 we're projecting. That's been reduced a little bit as we add different trips within several within the district. And I expect that number is one that's going to fluctuate. It's probably going to decrease more as we move into the year or as we outplace additional students. Okay, the salaries, the surplus has increased based on, really, it increased quite a bit, but I also factored in that we're going to be adding that program starting probably in January. We're looking at about a $244,000 surplus right now, driven a lot of it by unpaid leaves, and it's mostly in the certified area.
Just for clarity purposes, again, just in case people missed it, Dominic said that we're adding a program. I just wanted to clarify that, and Laura, you could chime in. We're adding a K-2 behavioral program. We believe that we have a population that now is in need, that we have to identify a special program for them. It's much more appropriate to keep them in our school district at this time and not look to outplace these individual students. So at this present time, the K-2 program for the rest of this year at least will be housed within the Harvest Park location at Mary G. Fritz Elementary School. There's a classroom across the way that we're going to transform. Within that area, it's a self-contained area. It's a separate area where the 3-5 program is. So Harvest Park that's at Mary Fritz is a 3-5 program. So this would be the K-2 program for students. And so there's a teacher that we have to hire for the program, and a part-time psychologist that we're hiring, and then the students will be bringing their paraeducators with them.
Roxanne?
Thanks. So I just want to be clear. The way you described that, Sal, is that it's almost like a transitional spot rather than outplacing. So does that serve the entire district or just the west side, or is that, you know what I'm saying?
It represents all 4 K-2 schools.
Okay.
And it is a program that would would provide the least restrictive environment for these students at this time. And it's, again, we're working off of the success of our 3-5 program at Harvest Park, and providing the social work support, the psychologist support, classroom teacher support, paraeducator support, and then also some consult time from the behavioral specialists.
Kathy?
So Sal, do we currently have K through 2 kids that are outsourced that will be
No, there's nobody's
back?
coming back.
So I'm very confused then.
These are
as to how-
students. These are students that have presented significant challenges.
Yep.
That the alternative without a program would be to outplace the students.
Okay,
Which
so-
would be much more expensive
Agreed.
than to have an internal program. So what I was just bringing up is because Dominic just alluded to the fact that the salary right now, they're showing a surplus. There will continue to be a surplus, but there might be a little bit less when the program is established because we have to hire a teacher and a part-time psychologist.
Okay, I misunderstood. I thought what he was saying was that because of the 1.5, there's this increase in salaries, and I'm thinking if we
No.
have to, yeah. So it has nothing, there, it's.
No, they're two
okay,
separate things,
got
but
it.
the salary line item might show adjustment over the course.
It should go down once we hire those
It-
1.5.
No, they've been factored in. I factored in the 1.5 out, not for the whole year because the
Right.
program
For the-
isn't going
okay,
yet.
I'm sorry, I misunderstood,
no,
so
that's all right.
thank you.
I wasn't clear, but, so the surplus, we don't expect it to really be impacted by the program. We've already accounted for that.
Okay, I think what confused me was when you said you factored it in, I was taking that to mean that's what helped to increase it, and I'm like, that.
I got
No,
you.
no, it wouldn't help
Okay,
down there.
I got it. Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Karen?
And,
Oh, sorry.
I just wanted to say that Laura and also Donna Curtis have worked very hard on making sure that the space is appropriate, that the service is appropriate. So we are staying within our usual ratios. Right now, we have how many students slated for it? 5 students. So again, we just want to bring that to your attention. This is an ongoing opportunity. As we saw last year, we had to hire additional staff at the beginning of the year to help mitigate some of the behaviors that we were seeing to try to offset and support those individual students. This will be a continued conversation in the budget process, I can guarantee, as we continue to see the need for additional services for students, especially at the elementary schools.
Karen?
So how many one-to-one students do we have that require a one-to-one staffing?
In this particular program, none of them. There will be 3 paras assigned to the program.
The general classroom?
Correct.
Yes,
particular classroom.
Yes, and 1 special ed teacher.
And have you identified the special ed teacher?
The job was posted.
And,
I'm hoping to get the first round of interviews in before Christmas.
and then your crisis intervention team, or whatever your name is, with the PMT-trained folks are all identified for this program as well?
Yes, the paras that are going to be going over there are already our employees.
Okay.
And then in addition to that, if the teacher that we bring on is not trained, we will get them trained right away. However, we're looking specifically for experienced people that have dealt with behavioral kinds of programs. So PMT is pretty widely used in a lot of districts. Hopefully they'll be currently trained in it.
Do you anticipate, now these are K2 students, have we identified any other students that are younger than this that might require this type of setting as well?
At this point, we haven't felt the need to move on to a more restrictive setting for a preschooler. We're continuing to look at what we're doing at that level to always be adding more supports so we don't have to put a preschooler in a self-contained, really our integrated preschool really it kind of is a self-contained program, but to move past that or to outplace, we wouldn't want to do that. So,
No, I'm not looking for outplacement, but
Yeah.
I'm looking for, do you anticipate a transition of students that are currently in that program
Over to the,
this.
Yes.
yes, so when they have their annual reviews, obviously, we will look at everybody's individual needs and what kind of program they need to go to. But not for the preschool year, for the kindergarten year.
Now, do you anticipate this program expanding past these 5 students?
It could, and that's where we would have to plan appropriately. Right now, we're anticipating, based on the enrollment data that we have for next year, that the program would not go beyond the 5, maybe 1 additional student, so we would stay within the staffing that we've allocated. But again, if that were the case, we never know, because as we all know, people sometimes move into district that bring, some services that we need to provide with them, so we'd have to make those adjustments.
So if that were to be the case, do we have adequate room?
That's where, again, at this point, the easiest and the most efficient method of getting this program started in the best interest of the students was to move it to Harvest Park. If we found that at the end of the year, as we do more annual reviews or there's more transitions into our district, the elementary principals have all been part of this process. So we've identified potential other spaces
Okay.
that might be able to take this on. But at this point, it made sense because there's a full-time social worker already servicing Harvest Park 3-5. So she would be on site to also help with the K2 students. And we also felt to start a program, and this was Laura's idea, was that to start a program brand new in a separate building, we have a successful 3-5 program, so we felt that this new teacher would have somebody to kind of team up, kind of learn the ropes with, be able to collaborate with the students. And then if we had to move it out of Fritz come the fall, at least that person would have had about 6 months to gain his or her foundation as we moved forward. One of the pages of our budget book that we're going to be doing a little differently this year that I think will be very helpful is that I think we all sometimes lose track of all the specialized programming we have in the district. So it's going to really deal with specialized programming for students and really look at where it's located, how many students, what are the resources being allocated to those programs. Because I think that I think one of the things is we are a victim of our own success in some instances because we do have substantial programming. And so students have moved in, which is great, to have additional students in our district for the services that we're able to provide, because we now will have the K2 behavioral program, 3-5 behavioral program. We obviously have arts, which is a middle school, high school program. We also have STARS, which is at Stevens. We have an older version of STARS, which is at Pond Hill that we opened up this year, which is another program dealing with students with behavioral challenges. We also have Inspire, which is for the autism program. And then, of course, we have ICE-T. So we have a variety just there. That was a whole mouthful. So we want to kind of take you through all those programs and share with you all the services. So we'll go through that. And then, of course, on the non-specialized side, we also have EEP, the Educational Enhancement Program at Sheehan. So there's a variety of things. So as we look at this and as we continue to refine how we put together the budget, it became very clear that this is another layer of information that helps the community see the students that we actually serve, and clearly understand that the students we serve are very, they're somewhat different than the students we served even 3 years ago, never mind 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 15 years ago. So we oftentimes will hear, well, why do you have so much of X? Well, this is going to help us without, again, we're here to serve those students. So it's not about pointing fingers or blame. It's just, this is what we need to do what's best for these students.
Well, the other concern I had was, once you establish a program, and especially if a student is going to stay in that program for 2 or 3 years in that location, that builds consistency for that student, and they understand where things are and what to
Correct.
expect. And so that was the reason for my question, because I would not like to see that skipping around the district and changing locations, because I don't think that's beneficial to students with these needs.
Exactly, and one of the things that we seriously have looked at also is that we like to have a program at its age-appropriate school. So, for example, a K2 program, this again was the best fit right now because we want to, right now, to move other classrooms and to move other resources at the other schools was not going to be effective in terms of a timeliness to address the students' needs of these 5 students. So ideally, if they were at a K2 school, then it allows for some more appropriate time with non-disabled pairs
Right.
of their own age groups. So not that I'm saying definitively that I'll be moving to a K2 school, but I think that
Right.
our belief is that would be the case, but then stay there, looking at our enrollment
Right.
trends, so that we balance it out. And that's why, when Harvest Park came back, now it's 8 years at Mary Fritz.
Right.
We haven't transitioned it. Same thing, at the same time we brought back arts,
Mm-hmm.
and that's 8 years at Lyman Hall. So that allows that stability, which we'd be looking for.
Right, because that's been a concern in the past in this district, and I wouldn't like to see that
Yep.
happen again.
Okay. Roxanne?
Yeah. So I applaud that notion of that extra page in the budget book, because I think you're right. I think it's particularly challenging for the public to understand the depth and the breadth of services we provide for a variety of needs for our students. So thank you for that. I think that's going to be a great conversation piece, if you will, and especially for the community at large. So, but that wasn't, that was the comment I wanted to make. So I want to make sure I understand. So we're looking to hire a special ed teacher mid-year. So are we worried about, I have a couple questions about hiring and personnel. So are we, I know there's a shortage, just nationwide probably of special ed teachers. Are we concerned about filling that spot? And, what are our thoughts on that?
Well, we already have some applicants in.
Yep.
So we're going through and reading the applications.
I know you're doing the best you can to answer it, but, I
It
appreciate
is.
that,
It's
Laura.
always a challenge. in
So what if
all
we
the
don't
fields.
have a special ed teacher to fill? I mean, I don't want to be a, Debbie Downer, but what do we suspend the program, or how do we, what's our contingency plan?
I think our first initial step that we said, we didn't want, because it becomes a house of, or it becomes a domino effect.
Right.
So we wanted to look externally first, if possible, because that doesn't upset the caseloads and
Sure.
students that are already being served by our special ed teachers in district. If we do not find somebody successfully there, then we would have to look in district.
Okay.
To see whether or not there's somebody who we feel would be qualified, and we feel that we can make that move. But we would want to be very cautious in doing that and very, deliberate in our steps.
So what I'm hearing is if I say this tongue in cheek, because I don't ever want to say your priority, obviously, especially our most susceptible students are always our priority. But it sounds like your priority is to try to get this program launched for January.
Correct.
So how that gets achieved, you're willing to be flexible, but that's your priority.
Correct.
So then, that's fine. I wish you the best. I hope it works out. I really do, for all the right reasons. And so then, I think you said 3 paras will
Those are
move
already, yeah.
internally. I know, but that's not my question. So they'll move internally over to that program. So does that provide, wait, are they already with those students? So
Yes.
it doesn't provide a need to replace those paras?
That's what I was just going to answer.
Oh,
I was
okay,
predicting
well,
your question.
sorry.
There's no addition, the only additional staff that needs to be hired.
Is the one special
Is
ed.
the one special ed teacher and and some resource from a psychologist.
Okay, all right, great. Okay, thank you for that. Appreciate it.
Patty?
Excuse me, I do need to start doing this.
Yep, sorry,
Is that public
Shauna.
comment
I-
is at
That's
the
fine.
end?
Okay. That's
So
fine.
it's on the agenda, and I'm sorry, I apologize, but I was
Thank you,
reaffirmed
Sal.
by our attorney
That's
that
what
we
I
have
was trying to
stick
say to you.
it.
Questions from the public at the end.
Oh,
That's what I was trying to say to you.
sorry,
like,
Ms.
Yeah,
Purcell.
that's what I was trying to say. Just, yeah.
Done?
All right, okay, moving along on this report, the unemployment, not enough data to really change it, so I'm still projecting the same deficit. And the remaining items, hopefully we'll have projections, well, not hopefully, we'll have projections next month. We typically don't project the Medicare plant utilities until starting January. So, we'll have some projections on at the next meeting. And just to give you a quick update on the budget, we are just plugging along. We're finalizing the sustained budget, working on the strategic budget, and we'll have it printed before the Christmas break.
Does anybody else on the
Just-
board have questions on the
and
budget?
Just a quick comment about the budget. I know that you all received an email, so I just figured I'd take this chance. The 17th will be our first budget presentation rather than the 8th or the 9th.
Okay, that was unclear to me, all right.
So because of the fact that the week of the 8th, we have the swearing in, the 9th, there's already town-wide meetings that are occurring. The 10th, there are district-level meetings at 7 schools, so it minimizes our ability if parents do want to attend. And the 11th, there's also district-wide activities. So we already had scheduled on our calendar for budget meetings the 17th, so we're just going to stick with the 17th as our meeting. However, board will get their budgets on the 8th.
Okay, so can I ask a favor? Because I think I know my dates, but I feel like we've moved them a
should've-
ton.
You didn't get Linda didn't send out an email this afternoon?
She did at 5:16.
Oh, okay, so I may not have seen it. So she's listed all the for January at least. That's all I care about at this point.
Yep.
Okay, all right. So, well, wait a minute. Okay, 17th, okay, got it. Thank you.
Yeah, I had asked
So
her,
good. Nope, I'm good.
because it got confusing.
Yep. I just want to make sure I've got
Yeah,
them.
no.
I've got so many on my calendar that,
Well, and that
I'm
week-
fine with that. but-
Yeah, everything, the only one that was changed was that we were supposed to do the 8th, and then we were going to try to move it to the 9th, and then we were informed of a townwide conflict.
Well, we're still going to have a meeting on the 8th, though.
Yeah, just for organizational
Exactly.
purposes.
Okay.
So that'll be.
But the 9th is completely
The
canceled.
9th is off, the 10th, there were too many conflicts, and the
That's
11th,
fine.
there were too many conflicts.
Thank you.
All right, so anyone else on the board on the budget? Okay, consensus on the financial report. Amanda?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay, moving on. Cafeteria report.
Okay, in your packet should be the 5 charts. The first one is the cafeteria operations, which is our summary.
Dave, can I just?
Absolutely.
Okay, so on the cafeteria reports, we have revised the September and October revenues. We reduced them by about $23,000. The reason being, we were using the Munis system to report the revenues, and the revenues were not being posted into Munis, the cash. It was a cash number, but not revenues. So we revised them. We are gonna report them, right now, we're reporting them based on the POS system, and we're in the process of getting a process in place so that we will put the POS data into Munis, so we can get all our information out of Munis. So if you were to compare September and October of what's in this report to the report from last month, the revenues were overstated by about $23,000.
Okay.
All right, is there,
There a question on
Do I-
that? No? Okay. But that's been amended, so we're okay for the
Correct.
future. Okay.
Correct.
All right.
So let's, so once again, is the first chart should be your cafe operations summary, which we'll go over, followed by a comparison sheet, which is the larger legal size, which breaks down the sales and the expenses, and followed by the participation log, and continuing with just the market plan and the customer service log. So as you could see on the operations summary, the revenue for the month of October was $149,601, where last year was $163,111, where we saw a decrease, variance of $13,510. On the meal ends, we claimed $35,153. And the previous year was $35,951, and we noticed a variance for November of 2,700 meals from the previous year, or as you can see on the far right-hand column, a 7.3 variance for the month. As you can see, the 3 months that we've been in operation, we are slowly getting where we feel that we're going in the right direction. We started with a tough September, as you can see on the meal variance on the far right-hand column, and each month we see a 2% for the better for us. So it is some positive there. On the expense end, I think you're better off to look at the second page on the comparison, and this breaks down the expenses also with food costs. And so on the expense end, we showed $165,872 for the month. And if you continue down on the comparison, it breaks it out. And important number for us is the food cost, which is on this chart. It just says food and milk. And we notice it's about a 36% number, our food costs, and I feel that's a good number. Anything in the mid-30s to below 40 is a good number to be at. Our labor costs was high that month in November, which was 68% of our sale, and that's mainly due to sales in November were off. And
There were also, I think, 5 paychecks in November, if I remember correctly.
okay.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So if you looked, if we compared and where in October, our sales were moderate, and we noticed our labor cost was in the mid-50s to 57%. So as sales grow, our labor cost should be where it is percentage-wise. All in all, in the month of November, we did lose $16,271. We're working hard at it. There's some concern on my end. We mentioned last meeting when we were here about the kitchen maintenance repairs. They are still climbing. Year to date, we're spending over $17,000 on kitchen repairs. And just recently, our Shein dishwasher was repaired, and we'll have to pay for that in December, which is over $1,000 expense. And our Moran walk-in cooler needs an overhaul, and a $1,500 expense will be acclimated to us in December. So
can I stop you there really quick just to ask a question? So you're saying we're spending a lot, I mean, that's a lot on repairs. Are we at the point with certain items that maybe they need to be replaced instead of repaired?
well, that's exactly what's happening. So in Moran, instead of them patching up the cooler up on the roof or a leak we have, we're replacing it. They recommended highly that due to all the service calls the last 6 months, that it's time to repair that.
Is that something that you're going over with Mark? Like, have you guys done, and I apologize if this is a question we've asked in the past, but have we done a run-through of all the cafeterias to see where we're at as far as the equipment? Because, I mean, $17,000 this early in the year just seems like a lot of money to be spending so soon on repairs. To see if maybe it could be a bonded project. I know we have certain criteria we have to meet, but maybe a kitchen overhaul is a bonded project. I can't see, would a cooler not last 20 years, like a walk-in freezer? I'm not sure.
We've looked at, we've, in the last 3-4 years, we've replaced a lot of equipment.
Okay.
And we're continuing down that road. Some of these problems are when you look at a walk-in cooler, if you have to replace the condensing unit, that's not really a big cost. It happens. Some of this equipment is old. Some of these coolers, I would think that the mechanical components are 30, 40 years old. So some do need to be updated, but we're making progress.
But I guess I guess my question is more along the lines, like I get doing it piece by piece, but I think if we could look at it maybe as a whole project. When we do the fields for football, we don't look at it as necessarily we're just going to replace the scoreboard. We kind of see the project as a whole. We're going to redo the fields. I'm wondering if maybe that's another way we could look at some of the kitchens, especially the older ones, to see if that's potentially a bondable project. So we're redoing this kitchen. I don't know. It's just a different, something to look into instead of.
Yeah,
Sorry,
I was
Leslie,
going to ask this exact same question. Especially our key kitchens like Shein, that a lot of stuff comes out of. Is that something to consider? Is it bondable? I was going down the same path as you.
Yeah.
So something to think about.
Are you also looking at like a preventative maintenance
Yeah, we talked
plan?
about that last meeting too, and
So that'll do some of the
Would you
benign-
say, how do I ask this question? Have we been, and it's not looking to point fingers, but have we been as diligent as we could be towards preventative maintenance or, and some of that, Dave, is hard for you because you weren't here. but I don't know. I guess I guess it's sort of an irrelevant question, really. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, and I think that there was a shift when the Board of Ed took over the responsibility for maintenance. I think Mark and directors that had, come before Dave
Sure.
had been thoroughly reviewing what was going on. And that's why we saw so many things coming from the capital projects that were coming from the mayor, or the use of the CRA funds for sinks and for
Right.
different things like that. The combi ovens, all those different things came when we started looking at it from a district perspective. So I think that'll continue. I think unfortunately, as Mark said, some of this stuff is some of the items are very, very, very old.
Well, and I think if we're going to commit fully, and we have committed at a minimum for 3 years to sustain this internally, I think that is what we, as a board, have agreed to. We kind of need to look at those items that I'd hate to see a program get defined, whether it's successful or not, over something like equipment that is just not in the purview of the people that are running the program and trying to make it work. That's, and those can be big ticket items. So,
And
I appreciate that's
yeah.
an interesting balance is all I guess I would say.
And even to that point, Roxanne, if we were to outsource, let's say 3 years from now, just what if we were to outsource, they'd still be using our facilities, and we would still potentially be responsible
Well,
for
not
that.
necessarily. That could be part of, how it's written in terms of what,
They could be required, yeah.
Yeah,
The other
that's-
thing that we didn't bring up, and I guess, in full fairness to the program, technically, when both of the previous directors were here, when there were large maintenance items to be replaced, it came from contingency.
That's true.
It didn't come from the cafeteria budget.
That's true.
So I think that, I would be comfortable with, and I don't know if this would be something that the board would support us to do, is for having Dave go back through what has come out of his budget for those maintenance items that were replacements that would have, in the past, over the last 6 years, would have come out of the Board of Ed's contingency. At least make a list, and
Yeah.
we could have a conversation.
I'm fine with that. I would also add a column, I guess, to that end of what is the life expectancy of that equipment?
Yeah.
If, just a general ballpark in terms of what are potentially bondable items
that's
going
already-
forward. That's where I'm
that's-
going with that
Yeah,
conversation.
that's a document that I know they already have. I'm thinking, because that's something that's part of our facilities budget that
Right.
Mark was to integrate with Dave in the facilities plan.
Mm.
This is for, I'm thinking that the items that, like that, whatever it was, $14,000, $15,000 that you just mentioned, in the past, that would have come from our contingency as a
Right.
Board of Ed.
Mm.
That was charged to the food services account. So I'm just thinking that, along with what you're suggesting, that chart, that if we could get
Yeah.
what has been spent this year, since July 1st, on maintenance or replacement of mechanical things, bring that to all of you and determine whether or not we would like to take that from contingency and do a transfer so that it's a little bit truer, apples to apples, over the last several years with the food services budget,
Yeah.
in fairness to the hardworking staff.
Right. And that's what I'm worried about is
Yeah,
that
that's,
piece.
that when you said that, I
Yeah.
really appreciate you saying that.
Yeah. So, and I think also, I want for the public's perspective, when we do have, whether we're on the municipal side, talking to them about our budget, and/or the community side, I want them to be able to understand truly what goes into the whole cafeteria budget and what parts of it are specific to the cafeteria, or, there's a lot of gray where we overlap, and that's a perfect example where capital expenditures might come out of our contingency, not truly the cafeteria budget.
Correct.
Fine, not a problem there, but again, I would want the municipal side of government as well as the public to understand that, and is that always a clear indication of the profit or losses of this program? Yeah, I guess I wonder at some point, if we're true to, I just thought of this, if we're true to keeping this, at least in the next 3 years, we've committed to that, why do we have a separate cafeteria? Is that a common
We have.
practice? You have to,
No,
that's,
yeah.
I guess that's true, I did know the answer to that. Okay,
Yeah.
never mind.
The other thing that, and I know you all saw this on the
Right.
document, the front page, at this time, remember last year in October, the board gave the cafeteria fund over $38,000 to
Right.
subsidize it.
Right.
So there has not been any transfer of funds from the money market or the unencumbered balance for the cafeteria this year. So there's still approximately $119,000 left in that account.
Okay.
So that has not been touched. So there are some things that I think paint a little different picture if you know the whole story versus just hearing, the basic numbers. But, so if you don't mind, if we'll pull those
Yeah.
maintenance items, but also to Roxanne's point, as we continue to look at the budget, when we find those cafeteria, maybe we could pull those just cafeteria items into a separate area for facilities, those equipment. If we could also put, like, what is their life expectancy?
Life expectancy, yeah. And I just want to say for public record, I think anytime you try to shift or change or alter a program that is like food service, that, there's potentially a preconceived notion for the positive and for the negative, or nothing, depending on the end user, which happens to be students, which they're students, that's fickle right there and then. It's like turning the Queen Mary around in the New York Harbor. I mean, that's not easy to do. And when you're shifting, and I really applaud what you're trying to do, Dave, and your team. You're introducing new foods and, marketing approaches and trying to, hook kids into trying different things. I totally love and respect that you're trying to do that, and it takes time. That's not something that's just going to happen overnight. And I just think that we have to be patient too. And I applaud all the initiatives. I know you're doing a ton with your staff and each of your staffs in your schools to, keep it going. And I appreciate that.
So, Dave, I just have one more question for you about the reimbursements. And I know that you're probably going to get into bigger detail on the next page. But we're down almost $4,000 from last year on reimbursements, if I'm reading this correctly. Does that mean we are seeing a reduced number of free and reduced lunch participants?
Oh, you're on the
So,
participation?
no, this
Oh, the
one right
comparison.
here, right?
Right.
And under reimbursements, it says negative $877.77, right?
What month are you looking under, Sean?
September?
Yep,
Okay. Oh, that's why I didn't follow it down.
yep.
And so we go down to November, and we see a difference of, I can't say,
64.
reimbursement, 64, thank you.
$6,400,
So
correct.
are we seeing a reduction in the number of students who are eligible for free and reduced lunch participating in the meal
We'll be able to look
program?
at that on the next chart on the
Okay.
participation, but to elaborate on that, Sean, is also at this time last year, they received a healthy food check.
Oh, okay.
And that's a reimbursement sale that we should be getting this month,
Okay.
which will offset our financials next month. We'll see a little help from the federal and the state.
Excellent.
Just to elaborate on the end of the financials, like Sal said about the contribution, we also are seeing an $8,200 unemployment fee that we are accruing from the past director, which they did not get last year. So that's affected it in our numbers with our comparisons year to date versus last year. On the second report, actually the third page, you have the participation, which is a new sheet to the district. I track the meals every day on a spreadsheet, and I enter them off the point of sale machine. And what we like seeing there is the average daily meal, which is 3/4 of the way over on the right. On the average daily meals, we've noticed an increase from last month of 40 meals a day on the elementary, which is promising to see. The middle school, the 493 number is pretty much even as last year. And the high school has also increased 22 meals a day. So those are promising numbers that I like to see, that once again, we're going in the right direction gradually, where we would not want to see a decrease in those numbers. On the far right-hand column, we added the percent of free and reduced meals, which is what everyone agreed upon. And that's actually coming into play nicely, where we're getting to see the actual number of the free and reduced applications on the actual meal counts. And what's also promising is the elementary is up 6% from last month. The 68.5% number is up 6% from October. And the middle school is up 8% from October, which is the 72.4% number. And the high school is also up 9 percentage points from the previous month. All in all, the 66.1% number is up 6% from last month. So once again, numbers, these are good numbers. They're gradually getting to where we eventually want to be down the road.
So just one more thing. So can we include, for the future reference, especially with an entirely new board coming on, it'd be beneficial to have last month's as well for these
Absolutely.
numbers? Because when you reference this without having it in front of me, my packet from last month, I'm kind of waiting for you
Sure.
to tell me it's up 6%. So that would be great. And then Roxanne?
So our free and reduced are up. Would you attribute that to a greater need in our district, or is there better awareness? You know what I'm asking?
I think
I'm not
both.
sure you can answer that
I
question.
think both. I think as the school year goes on, we're seeing things blending in for helping us out, where the beginning of the year is very difficult in school lunch, especially in the elementary sector with the applications. And they haven't figured out, if you're going to, with your student, if they're going to eat. But I think as the months, we've just finished our third period, it's slowly coming around.
Because it worries me to think if there's a greater need in our community, that's not a good thing. I mean, obviously, we're there to serve them and we're there for them. But if it's an awareness thing that we're doing a good job of, really making sure our audience, our families understand what are the guidelines, and that, potentially they might be eligible. I want to, and I'm not sure you can discern between the two.
Karen, our clerk, still answers questions with parents,
And some of these financial needs
guides
could
them in the right
change
direction.
mid-year, obviously. We
Right.
never know.
Where,
That's a moving target. It's.
Dave.
I
Sorry.
appreciate that.
Dave, just talk into the mic because it's, they can't hear you.
Okay.
Thanks. Sorry.
Just
No, that's
finishing
fine.
up on the participation report. So once again, I owe it to all my managers and employees. They work hard. They believe in themselves. They care about the students, and it's just taking time. They're hardworking individuals like myself, and we're slowly getting there, and we're going in the right direction. Overall, as I mentioned, the program, right direction. We should receive our first healthy food check we just talked about. Our catering department has picked up some new business in both the high school athletic departments, and we've recently enjoyed 2 successful dinners, outings last week at Lyman Hall. We also booked 2 new elementary holiday staff parties, which are happening next week. Once again, this is all new business that we occurred. If we continue on to the marketing plan, I'm just going to go over some highlights. I'm not going to go through every line because there's quite a bit there. I continue to follow all of my strategies on a weekly basis. We're closing in on partnering with Todd Langston from Chick-fil-A, and we look forward to marketing his very popular product. There's some things we have to meet and work out. And my plan is to pilot his product in one of our high schools, and I'll be going over that once we get some costs in line and go over with my staff to see what's the best way to handle that. We've recently reapplied for the whole grain waiver with our state child nutrition department. In 2015, the director applied for the whole grain waiver. It was never renewed until it was brought to my attention, and I want to thank Tammy for bringing that up in our meeting. I jumped all over it. I'm very familiar with that program. I applied for that program in 2 of my other districts I worked at, so I know how it works. We got the state what they asked for, and we are just waiting on a decision within a week or 2, and we're really excited about that. If knock on wood, that they will approve us because of our financial loss, which I have to show them. Just finishing up, our new and improved survey has been completed and will be rolled out shortly in the next 2 weeks. Elementary parents will receive this via the school messenger, and high school students will be able to go to their school email account, which will tell them how they can take the survey from their cafeteria table once they scan a barcode. So this is, I worked with Kate O'Donnell on this. We noticed that the last survey, which was done several years ago, and no one did it because it was online and no one's gonna go in. So Kate and I brainstormed, and we're gonna have the bar scan code on the table taped, and principals have approved it. We're excited about it, and so that's gonna start soon. A couple other things. We've recently opened our first food service Twitter account, which I'm learning how to use. Sal's gonna teach me all that. We've updated our high school breakfast menu and already see an increase in slight meal counts. I continue to get involved in several PTO organizations. I've recently completed 3 new classroom trainings in the month of November, 2 at Lyman Hall Food Service, 1 classes, and another Cook Hill healthy snack demonstration I did for teachers and students. So that's the fun part of my job. I really enjoy that. The last document you guys have
Hold
is
on
an
one second,
incident.
we have a question.
Oh,
Roxanne?
that's okay, I could wait. I mean,
Oh.
well, I was just going to say, with the survey for the elementary, that goes to parents, right?
Right, we're gonna send that out.
And totally understandable why. Is there a beginning and end date when they can take that survey?
No, there isn't. Nope.
Okay, that's
Yeah.
good, because I'm thinking if you're offering it in 2 weeks, there's
No, yep.
no
My goal is
parent
to have
is
it out
that-
before the new year.
Well, I mean, my point is that with the holidays, that's just not going to be a priority to respond, and I would hate to see you close it after, 2
No,
weeks or
it's open. It's
some
on our
predetermined-
website too.
Perfect.
We simplified it, 6 good basic questions. I went over with my strategic
Right,
plan.
right.
You guys were a big help of
Right.
that.
But
just
that's,
it's-
so is that always open, Dave? How does that work?
I think we'll talk about it. Eventually, we'll cut it off, I think, because I like to tally the results
Right,
in a month or 2.
Sure.
And go over a plan and go over with my managers and employees on where we are and. come up
and
with-
so for the, especially, because the high school, the barcode is just, that's perfect, they'll communicate that way. But for parents of the elementary, how are we communicating to those parents that this is available to them
I'm
to
gonna go
take the
through that. I
survey?
was just trained last week on School Messenger.
Okay,
And I'm gonna put that in the email to them.
okay.
Specifics.
So one email, a couple emails, how are we gonna,
As far
launch
as I
that.
know, I'm gonna be able to send it out per school or all the elementaries in one batch form that I was trained on last week.
so will that go out before Christmas?
I'm shooting for it, yep.
So I would just suggest maybe, I mean, that's great, but again, as a, if I'm trying to deal with Christmas and I've got little ones, that's gonna fall probably, that's not gonna be my priority. So maybe offer it again in mid-January to just remind parents.
Just, what do you think, Sal?
Well, one of the ideas I was thinking of is that on now the 18th, the morning of the 18th, all parents will get our budget presentation.
Yep.
Which will also have
December
a
18th.
January.
Or January 18th, okay.
We'll get
Thank
the
you.
budget presentation with a link to a survey on the budget. We could also say reminder. if
Yeah,
there's another
that's all.
link.
I just want you to get, I want you to have good results. And if you just send out the reminder or you have an opportunity and you send it out before Christmas, I don't think you're gonna get good result,
Maybe we do it in January.
But yeah, that's for
Well,
you
I think
guys.
you send it out.
Do it
I don't
both. I
think
mean, there's
I
no.
don't think it hurts to do both.
Sure.
And then we could also tweet it out and.
I like the idea of putting
and-
it to,
yeah.
tying it to the budget too, that's fine, but I just would hate to see you not get good results because it went out, timing was an issue.
Correct.
That's all I'm focusing in on,
Dave, you are doing a lot of really cool stuff, and I'm sure there's pictures involved. And have you thought about doing a monthly newsletter at the beginning of the month when you send home that calendar with the food, the menu.
Yep.
That's the
No,
word.
It's like,
I know there's a word.
It's actually on my marketing plan.
Okay,
and
good.
Absolutely, because all the good successes that we're doing as a program with the managers and the
Yeah.
employees, we have to let them know about it.
Yeah, I think the
And
parents
I'm
would
working
like.
with Danielle. She
Okay.
has a newsletter. She's offered that I could just send her bullets, and so yeah, I'm all over that.
All right, good. Yeah,
Yeah.
Danielle has a great newsletter she sends out.
Just finishing up, I know it took a long time, the customer service log. The good thing is, there was no incidents, and I am calling them incidents, for November, so I'm proud of that. And last but not least, we currently fill 2 of our managers in our high schools with their job well deserved. They were on a substitute basis the last couple of years, and I finished that. I did the interviewing, whatever was necessary from personnel. I went through the interview with them and the paperwork, and they received both their offer letters, and we're very glad to see that progressed in the right direction. That's all I have.
Anyone questions from the board? No? All right, consensus on the cafeteria report. Amanda?
Yes.
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 And yes. All right, item D, the proposed 2018-2019 school calendar. Who wants that one?
Before we start with that, I want to explain my phone. My phone was on due to the fact that we got a weather update, that there might be a chance for,
Oh,
and if I don't turn it on now, I will forget when I get home, and it won't go on, and it won't get called. They're calling for some, little icing in the morning
Yeah.
potentially, so I apologize
Yeah, no problem.
for that. But it was not the weatherman calling, it was a telemarketer from Idaho.
oh no.
So I apologize for that doubly. So now I put it on vibrate, and I have to just remember, somebody has to remind me to take this off at the end of the meeting.
Okay.
Okay?
I'll text
So,
you
Thank you.
right now.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, for the proposed calendar for the 18-19 school year, there's a total required days of 188 for teachers and 183 for students. Key facts would be the first student day would be August 27th. The last student day, if there are no cancellations due to weather or other types of things that throw us out of the ordinary, the last day would be June 10th. In our calendar this current year, out of necessity, we ended up having 2 opening professional development days for teachers prior to the first student day, and then the 3rd professional development day, which is typically prior to the first student day, ended up being the day before Labor Day weekend. And that actually went so well that the Ed Council Committee recommended continuing with that going into the upcoming school year. So this proposal has the first 2 student weeks of school being 4-day weeks of school, kind of easing students back into the routine with 2 4-day weeks. And like I said, it went quite well. You'll see that there is a pound sign or a hashtag sign underneath September 20th. Those hashtags, what they refer to is that is a 2-hour student early release day for professional development. There are 5 of those days throughout the year, and they are on September 20th, October 18th, December 13th, January 31st, February 21st, and March 14th, and May 16th.
Cindy, I just have a question.
4, 5, 6, 7, sorry, there's 8 of
April
those. Yeah, I didn't say the right number of those, but on April 25th, there's 8 of those.
I have a question for you on that.
Sure.
This year, if I'm not mistaken, we rotated early release days by days of the week, right? And we're going back to the old way? We decided that that was going to work better?
Yep.
Was there feedback from that, or?
Well, the Ed Council honestly did discuss that one, and they find that for many families to have it a consistent day of the week, they're able to plan childcare and
Okay.
other options more appropriate or more easily if it's on a consistent day. And so the feedback was there's no win for everybody either way, but it seemed that more people preferred it to be on a consistent day. They would know Thursdays are when there's the early release for professional development, and that helped them.
Wonderful, thank you.
In addition, there's an early release day in the spring on April 4th for Parent Conference Night. There are some traditional early release days, which would be the day before Thanksgiving, the 21st, the day before the December holiday break, which is December 21st, and the day before President's Weekend, which is February 15th. And the last day of school is also traditionally an early release day, a half day of school. Other key things would be some professional development days for teachers. So in addition to August 23rd, 24th, and August 31st, which we already talked about, there would be a professional development day for teachers on Election Day, November 6th. So there's no school for students on Election Day. There's also professional development day for teachers on March 15th. And with a professional development early release day on March 14th, that provides a day and a half back-to-back consistent for professional development for staff. So that's something a little bit different than's been done in the past, but we thought it would really serve well for professional development needs. The other big things would be the week of December vacation is never really much in question, but the April vacation ties into Good Friday. Good Friday is April 19th, and with it being we'll make the April vacation that third week in April. That week works particularly well in light of some of the different state required assessments and AP testing, things like that. So that third week in April works well for that reason. I think those are all the highlights that people might have questions about, but if there are any other things, Shauna?
Yeah, sorry. Last day of school Monday?
The last day of school is a Monday, yes.
Are we, I was one, because the first thing I thought of when I saw that it was Monday was that, oh, we're not going to school that day. Just because, why would you go one day?
That's the proposed last day. That day is usually a moving target.
It's 183 days, that's how it falls.
Right.
There you go, yeah.
And it's usually a moving target if there's
Okay.
even a
Yeah, what are
single
the
inclement
chances
weather
of it
day.
being that day?
There'll be
So I guess that
something,
is
yeah.
the last thing raises a good point, and that's the first 9 days lost to inclement weather or the unknowns would be made up at the end of the school year. Any days beyond 9 would be made up starting at the beginning of the spring vacation, starting with April 15th. In the strange and not hoped for event that we had more than 13 days of cancellation, the board would determine what the last day of school would be in light of that circumstance. So.
Thank you. Any other questions, board? Anybody? No? Okay, this is not a consensus item, so I'm sure, right? Cindy, we don't take consensus on this is just a rough draft, right?
No,
Oh, we do get consensus tonight?
Yeah,
Okay.
and then this will go on to the consent agenda so that prior to the new year,
Oh,
parents
I
will
thought
know
it
the
was
calendar.
early. Okay.
You know, I did want to point out, Sal was just saying there's a lot of edits, and I'm not sure what happened in the copying of this, because the draft I edited was very different than the draft that appeared in your packet. So I'll see what happened in the formatting, because something got lost in translation here.
Awesome, thank you. Amanda?
Yes.
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 And yes. Okay. Item 3, public comment. Just state your name
Patty
for the
Purcell.
camera.
I'm Patty Purcell. Do I have to state where I live? 8 Melchett Drive, Wallingford, Connecticut. Anyway, I just had a question about I'm excited about the K2 Harvest Park. I think it's well needed. But my question is, for specials, are they transporting to a K2 school? That was all I wanted to know. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Then this meeting's adjourned.